Hi, you're listening to 20 Ways to Die. I'm Dan, I'm the DM, and today I'm going to give you a brief introduction of myself, as well as tell you a little bit about the group and how we got started. I live in the Northern Virginia area, the suburbs of Washington, D.C. My attraction to D&D started very early, about second grade, if I remember correctly, and one of my best friend, older brother, kind of introduced us to D&D, ran the first session, and I loved it, and it was great, and just the uniqueness and just the anything goes, like, oh, I can do that, or there's no limitation, right? You're only limited by your imagination. It was just really what attracted me to D&D, and we started off, I think that was AD&D, what we started with, and then later in high school, I played 3.5. I was the DM for that. Um, Looking back, I just realized how little I studied that book or did things the correct way. But yeah, that's kind of how D&D is. Sometimes you're shooting from the hip, but it still works. And with this current resurgence in D&D, it kind of brought me back to D&D with 5th edition. I got to say, I just dove headfirst back into the hobby, and I do some miniature painting and DM one game. I'm a player in 2 other games, so it's great and I love it, and it's really awesome to see something that I've enjoyed for so long be more mainstream than it ever was. So we got started online with Roll20. Those of you who have tried to join an online game, you know the problems that comes from online play. People seem to be a lot more quick to cancel an online appointment than they would in real life. And it takes a while before you actually get your core group. So with our group, we had a couple people leave, switch out, and then eventually it ran into I had run the first episode of Horror of the Dragon Queen 3 or 4 times, and it got so bad that I was just merging all of the experiences together. I was like, "Oh, wait, you guys didn't do that?" And one of the players who was there from the beginning was like, "No, that was the other group. That was the other guys." And I was like, "Oh boy." So, but thankfully, we did find a good core group of 5 guys, and they were really good about role playing their characters as well as being open to this campaign and this kind of being a learning process for me, and we kind of learn as we go and get better and so on. And I don't want to tout them too much because they'll get big headed, but it's just a great group of guys. They're very easy to talk to, get along with, and you'll hear more about each of these players as I do these short little interviews with them that we'll be releasing. And I mean, we're spread out all over the U.S. One of us, he's in Canada, and the other, we got East Coast, West Coast. It's really neat to have this dichotomy of people that it comes together for a common cause, right? And this is almost kind of like the D&D adventures. You have a group of adventurers that come together for a single cause. I'm making a stretch, but it still is cool to think about. When we talk about our lives, it's different. We have different perspectives, and it's cool to have that. Initially, it was a homebrew campaign that I had created. I was spending a lot of time as we were going through. I was trying to prepping stuff, world building, and frankly, I got too involved in that aspect and not as involved on focusing on my players. And the breaking point was when one of the players asked, "Hey, is there a overall story arc to all of this?" And it really took me aback for a second, and I was thinking to myself that, wow, all this work I've been doing, and I miss the critical point that my characters need to have these good plot hooks and be a part of the story. So, with that big failure comes experience and knowledge and learning from that. So what I decided to do was switch to a module. And what better one than the first module that Wizards of the Coast released. So during this campaign and DMing for this group, one of the things that changed for me was, I guess, the style that I was trying to incorporate, as being the storyteller and the players were carrying that story along. So kind of taking a step back and letting them run things in a sense of the story and them moving it along, and then I'm reacting to their stuff. Now that's just DM 101, I suppose. But the difference for me was that I wanted to be a part of this game too. I didn't want to just be the guy behind the curtain. Instead, I wanted to facilitate a more collective effort. To do that, one of the things was I show all my roles in combat. I'm trying to do things to make it feel like it's not the players versus the DM, it's the DM telling the story and the players playing that story. So as we were going through, I was trying to improve as a DM, and I'm sure most people do, and try to get better. And one thing that I thought about was I should record this and play myself back so I can listen to the sessions, learn from my mistakes, see what works, what doesn't work. And that's how it started off, like an athlete watching game film, or even like a broadcaster recording and listening to themselves back again. So that's how it started, and I started recording. And then I don't remember who exactly brought it up, but we're like, hey, it's not bad. We got a good group. We have good chemistry. Why don't we release it to the public? So now you know why we started recording and why we're releasing it. Now, unfortunately, that means we're having our listeners jump in the middle of a campaign, but we're trying to transition that because we're starting Rise of Tiamat. So that is a new module, but unfortunately, the same characters are coming through. So to help everyone kind of catch up, what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of short interviews with every player, so you get to know them, their characters, and then once we kind of learn who everyone is, then I'm going to roll into a recap of our adventure during Hoard of the Dragon Queen, and I'll try to touch on key points. I'm not going to bore you guys with pages and pages of notes, which I do have. Instead, I'm going to condense everything kind of by chapter or by major events, and then get you caught up with what happened in Hoard of the Dragon Queen. So now you know a little bit about how we got started. I hope you enjoy listening to the sneak preview episodes, as well as the forthcoming short introductions and interviews. And again, we'll have a recap up so you can get caught up with all of our escapades in Hoard of the Dragon Queen. And we hope you continue listening with us as we trek through Rise of Tiamat right here on 20 Ways to Die.